My instruments for practical astronomy were a brass sextant of 10 inches radius, an achromatic telescope of high power for observing the satellites of Jupiter and other phenomena, parallel glasses, and quicksilver horizon for double altitudes, compass, thermometer, and other requisite instruments which I am in the constant practice of using in clear weather for observations of the sun, moon, planets and stars, to determine the positions of the rivers, lakes, mountains and other parts of the country I have surveyed from Hudson Bay. Both Canadians and Indians often inquire of me why I observe the sun and sometimes the moon in the daytime, and pass whole nights with my instruments looking at the sun and stars. I tell them it is to determine the distance and direction from the place I observed to other places. Neither the Canadians nor the Indians believe me, for both argue that if I was what I said I was, truth, I ought to look to the ground and over it and not to the stars. One fine evening in February, 2 Indians came to the house to trade. The moon rose bright and clear, with the planet Jupiter a few degrees on its east side, and the Canadians as usual predicting that Indians would come to trade in the direction of this star. To show them the folly of such predictions, I told them the same bright star, the next night, would be as far from the moon on its west side. This of course took place from the moon's motion in her orbit, and is the common occurrence of almost every month, and yet all parties were persuaded I had done it by some occult power to falsify the predictions of the Canadians. Mankind is fond of the marvellous. It seems to heighten their character by relating they have seen such things. I have always admired the tact of the Indian in being able to guide himself through the darkest pine forest to exactly the place he intended to go. His keen, constant attention on everything, the removal of the smallest stone, the bent or broken twig, a slight mark on the ground, all spoke plain language to him. I was anxious to acquire this knowledge, and often being in the company of the Indians, sometimes for several months, I pay attention to what they point out to me. This became of great use to me. The countries I explored was under the sanction of Mr. Joseph Colon, the resident at York Factory and the most enlightened gentleman who had filled that position. By a letter from him, I was informed that however extensive the countries yet unknown, he could not sanction any further surveys. My time was up, and I determined to seek employment from the Company Merchants of Canada, carrying on the fur trade under the name of the North West Company.